Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Nationalist Review. We are back after our Christmas hiatus, back with some great content for you all out there. Hope you had a good Christmas. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got to spend time with family, and hope you heeded our warning this past the last episode before Christmas break, telling you to enjoy the time with your family while you can. Always very important. I am, of course, James, also coming to you from the inland northwest hate lair. I've returned from the West Coast, returned from the capital of degeneracy out in Seattle, and I'm back in the wholesome and traditional and always beautiful eastern part of the state. More in line with like the Midwest out here than it is with the coast, truly. Joined as always by... I don't know what he's up to. I was going to make a joke about what you're doing on Twitter, but I can't see what you're doing on Twitter anymore. I was going to make a joke about you fighting with someone on Twitter or something, but I can't because I've been unceremoniously showed. It is, of course, Nick Fuentes. How's it going?
It's going well. We are back. This is my first piece of content, my first hour of content in, I think, exactly a week. And it's good to be back, my friend. It's been a pretty manic, depressive week with no outlets. So just a lot of inner torment. So I'm glad to be back to bring the bants and the commentary. How are you doing? How are you taking the Twitter ban? I know it's been... If it were me, I would have killed myself by now after a week. But how are you doing? You're handling it like a champ.
Trying to, making the best effort at doing that. Yeah, it's. I think it's going to result, honestly, in being a net positive, and not to sound like the Bill Mitchell of the world, where everything is going great, everything's awesome all the time. But I think it will be a net positive, because I was spending probably a couple hours a day, at least, just like on Twitter. And just tweeting at people or reading tweets and getting the news. And some of that 2-hour block or what have you was productive for sure, because I was getting news. That's how I used to do prep for this show, is tweet and interact with topics throughout the week, and then come back and circle back and then read through my Twitter feed and pull out the pertinent information and put it in the show prep for the week. So that's going to be, I think, the biggest casualty for me, is losing the ability to do that, and then losing the ability to shift the narrative. Of course, this is what we're always concerned about when people who are high profile, relatively high profile, get banned from Twitter on our side, people on our guys, Jared Taylor, etc., what have you, is that they will lose that ability to have a place at the table in the narrative, right? To have their opinion be part of, the spectrum of opinions out there on whatever topic is being discussed. So I think that is certainly the biggest loss for me, is the ability to participate in that narrative. But we'll recover. It's going to give me more time to make content. It's going to give me more time, because that 2 hours, I can use that 2 hours now to do content. I can use that 2 hours to write. I'm now graduated from college, so I can do this on more of a full-time job. So I'm actually thinking, and I haven't pitched this to you yet, Nick, but I'm thinking of doing a daily podcast, and more of a morning show, not a live show, instead of the evening live show after your broadcast, doing like a daily 1 or 2 hour podcast, more in the morning. So we can figure that out. But I just have more time for content now, and so overall, probably a net positive, a good way to eliminate one of those time sucks from your life. I think we all spend more time than we'd like wasting time, things that aren't productive, and to have one of those things taken away from you forcefully can actually be. It's like when you steal a smoker's pack of cigarettes, like it's cold turkey. So maybe a good thing after all. Trying to stay positive, anyways.
Yeah, well, you're taking it in stride. That's certainly a good way to look at it. I was sort of thinking the same thing around the time of the purge, thinking about some of the perks, and you're right. We all do spend a little too much time on Twitter, so it'll be nice to get some content out there and make it more productive. Well, glad to hear that you're taking it well. It's good to hear.
Yeah. I was able to. I've been keeping myself busy. I sound like someone who's lost a relative or lost a spouse or something, but I keep myself busy over the past week or so. I built the supercomputer, the America First supercomputer here, sitting down at my desk with, we're not going to be plagued by boomer tech over here anymore, guys. We finally eliminated all last remnants of boomer tech, and it's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's got Got the i7, the top line i7 processor, getting the graphics card in it tomorrow. So I can do all the fancy rendering that I couldn't do for the Roy Moore broadcast. So for all of our live broadcasts, we will have this guy doing the work and doing the rendering. So should be great. It'll probably be able to render these episodes in like 10 minutes as opposed to the like 40 minutes that it took on the old PC that was unceremoniously destroyed. So yeah, it's been good. I took a trip up to Spokane yesterday. Got to enjoy time with some friends up there in the freezing rain and freezing weather, and got new tires put on the Chad Patroller. So I got the real off-road look going. It's keeping busy. Speaking of keeping busy, I will also be keeping busy by shipping out all of your mugs that you've ordered. So if you ordered a mug after December 8th, okay, our first round of mugs went out they went out on December 7th is when they all shipped. So you should have them by now. If you don't have your mug and you emailed before then, email Matt at amfirstmedia.com and he can sort that out for you. So if you don't have it yet, do that. If you ordered after December 8th, on December 8th or after December 8th, you'll be getting yours in the next week or so, because they'll be getting here on January 2nd or 3rd, and we'll be shipping them out with 2-day or 3-day shipping, depending on your part of the country. So we got delayed by the supplier. It sucks. We expected to get these out on the 20th, but we got delayed unceremoniously by our supplier. So we do apologize for that, but that will not happen again. We figured out how to manage our inventory a little bit better so that we can be prepared for mass orders. So January 2nd or 3rd is when those will be going out. Also, you can send us Christmas Christmas gifts. We got some Christmas gifts here, Nick. I got them right here sitting on top of the PC. Christmas gifts, letters, donations, whatever you want to do, hate mail, whatever you want, to P.O. Box 236. That's P.O. Box 236 in Pullman, Washington, Pullman, Washington 99163 is the zip code there. Nick, I actually got some stuff to forward to you. Some beautifully wrapped present was sent to the P.O. Box.
Wow,
with
I'm
the instruction
excited.
to forward to you.
I love stuff. I love gifts. So I'm excited. I wish, it's kind of frustrating. You get the mailbox, you get the portal to the fans. By the same token, though, I guess you would get the anthrax. You would get the Ted Kaczynski, the Ted Kaczynski packages. So trade-offs, but
risk and reward.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually open the packages at I open everything at the post office, just in case, there were to be something. I want to open it in an area that is video monitored by the U.S. federal government. And I bring gloves with me. I wear little latex gloves every time I go check the P.O. box.
Better safe than sorry.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, you got the, I don't know what's in it. I don't know what's in the gift. It's wrapped. It has a nice little wrapping paper, a nice card attached to the top. I don't want to open it. So I'm going to send that off, forward that to you. So
Super. You'll
get that one. I'll also send out the replacement mugs that
yes, that would be ideal. Yeah, my mom, she was busting my balls. She's like, so let me get this straight. You got me and your father nothing for Christmas? I was like, Mom,
Oosh.
You know what happened, all right? You saw the mugs, but that's all right. That's all right.
I could have just, I could have just sent you some. I'm glad. I could have just sent you some super glue. Sent you a little tube of super glue and said they were like a build your own mug kit. We love puzzles here at America First.
Some Gorilla Glue. Yeah, it's a mind teaser. It's a mind game. You put the handles back on. No, that's all right. That's all right. They understand.
Yeah.
But
yeah, those will be going out soon for sure. I got my parents a new TV this Christmas. Because,
really?
Yeah, wow. Yeah. That YouTube sponsorship coming through. So, yeah. And I'm making up for the fact that I never used to buy them gifts too. Is a thing. It's like, when I was a kid, working 16, 17. Buy like a new oven mitt or something, like $10, and be like, oh, Merry Christmas. So I kind of felt guilty for 6 years of that. Uh-huh. So I felt like, okay, it's time to make up for that, and give back after they spent so much money rearing me to and paying for my college education and doing all that. So giving back, it's always good if you can do it. A little more housekeeping here, then we'll jump into content. AmericaFirstMedia.com. Man, I should plug the site correctly. AmFirstMedia.com for articles. Like I said, now that I'm a Twitter persona non grata, gonna start writing more. You saw my pros at work and the merch update, so more to come there. Follow AM First Media on Twitter, AM First Media on Twitter. That account used the parentheses meme before I did, and I still got banned first. WTF, Twitter. And then join our Discord server linked below. So keep up with the bans there. I haven't checked in on those guys in about 2 weeks. Last time I was in there, I was trying to download Grand Theft Auto on my laptop and participate in the Discord voice chat. Was not working well because stretching that poor thing's capability to the max. But now that I got the Chad Ranger here, just doing everything at once, I can probably run like 5 Discord servers at once. Cool. So not a big news week this week. Okay, we'll just come out and say it, like not a big news week. I don't know. Do you agree with that sentiment, Nick?
Yeah, pretty boring. I was glad I didn't have to do a show in some ways, because I'm looking at the news every night and it's nothing. It's it's a rehash of a lot of the same stuff. No real major development that I can think outside of what's going on in the Middle East today. That's, I think, the one exception where something pretty new, pretty fresh has come out. But I mean, really, you think about the whole year, and there have been, in terms of major stories, just like a few that keep popping up. Like the North Korea thing, that has been a constant literally since February. I've been talking about that since the first episode of my show at RSBN. Obamacare has been up there, tax reform. So it's been, a very boring week and uneventful year. I guess that's just how it goes, though, in news, is that, the same shit coming up again and again. I guess that's how it goes, but boring week.
I think the year has certainly been eventful, but I think we're just waiting right now. We're kind of in a waiting game. We're waiting for someone to make the next move, waiting for something big to drop, and that goes for all of these major stories. You think about what we talk about usually, and it's the DACA deal. It is, and there was some movement on that this week, which we can talk about. It's DACA, it's North Korea, it's Iran, and how we should definitely ally with them. And these are the major stories: national security more generally and broadly, immigration. Like, these are the topics that are important to us, that I think are important to the people who listen to the program, who are important to American nationalist people who want to MAGA, make America great again, the true sense of that phrase, identitarians, everyone else who is involved in our kind of cadre of listenership here. And there's just really not a lot going on with any of those stories right now. And so we could talk about these like ancillary issues, and the meta politics are important to talk about too, and just the smaller stories that kind of signify where we are in America, where we have come in America, and the cultural degeneracy and cultural decay and everything. But we tend here on the program to try to find the updates on the major stories, and it's just not really happening this week. So we'll do what we can. We got some updates, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah, so let's start with DACA, I guess, because that is the big story here of the week. Trump actually hasn't acknowledged DACA since September, right? I don't think he's mentioned DACA at all personally himself since September, when he rescinded the order. Is that accurate? I don't know. I think it is.
I believe so. I don't recall him speaking on it since then.
Sure. So he broke that silence this week. He pierced the veil, as the metalcore band name goes, this week, and he says, this is from Politico.com, Democrats seeking a deal to protect so-called dreamers from deportation must be prepared to agree to a package that includes several White House priorities, including a border wall and reforms to the U.S. immigration system, President Donald Trump wrote on Twitter Friday morning. The Democrats have, quote from Donald Trump, the Democrats have been told and fully understand that there can be no DACA without the desperately needed wall at the southern border and an end to horrible chain migration and ridiculous lottery system of immigration, etc. We must protect our country at all costs, Trump tweeted. So if we're going to protect our country, the first hole in this logic here, dotard Drumpf, is that if we're going to protect our country at all costs, we can't give amnesty. Any form of amnesty is antithetical to protecting our country at all cost. Because once these people are in, we know that we're not going to end chain migration completely. We know we're not going to get rid of the lottery system completely. So there will be still chain migration, and there will be family visit visas, and there will be violation of those visas. So if you give amnesty and you allow these illegals, these DACA illegals to stay, you will not be protecting the country at all costs. I mean, they'll still be bringing in 3 or 4 or 5 people instead of the, 30 that chain migration brings in on average. So this principle that we can compromise on immigration, this idea that we can compromise on immigration, is ridiculous on its face. And this is something I think the base really needs to push back against Trump on, because if he is starting to go down this road where he's saying we can deal for DACA, we saw how that worked out with Reagan. We saw how amnesty deals work out in this country. They don't work well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just premature to judge until we see, a piece of legislation or anything like that, in the sense that Donald Trump is going to say what Donald Trump is going to say, and that sounds asinine. That may sound like a tautology, but I mean, if you think about it, his rhetoric, the bully pulpit, is the tool of negotiation. He had a lot of rhetoric in August about DACA that turned out to be, in my opinion, almost completely strategic, almost completely tactical. The sympathy that he expressed for the DACA kids and that outreach towards Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, it didn't result in a deal. It didn't result in legislation. It didn't result in a compromise or anything like that. I think, and I forget exactly the particulars of what the purpose of that would have been. But I think looking at his tweets and saying this is going to be legislation, this is going to be a compromise, and judging it a little prematurely, I don't think that's a very wise thing to do, because we've seen this kind of rhetoric before, and it never really ends up in anything. So, if there's a compromise that's going to be made, I tend to side with you. I tend to err more on the side of caution, in the sense that you're right. We've seen this before. We saw this with Reagan. We saw this with, George Bush didn't even attempt to secure the border. But, I mean, we've seen this essentially for 50 years, where trying to secure the border and dealing with amnesty always ends up with, we get the latter and we neglect the former. We get the amnesty, we don't get the border security. So I err on the side of caution, where I say no deal. However, if we're talking about the REEEEE Act, if we're talking about ending chain migration, if we're talking about complete funding for the wall, ending the lottery system, I think it would be worth looking at. But we'd have to have it in front of us. We would have to see it. I err on the side of caution that we cannot compromise. But, before we go judging the deal, I think we should see if there's legislation. Because to be honest, I think it's a bluff.
Possibly. The problem is, though, one of these 3 things, when we talk about ending chain migration, 4 things: ending chain migration, building the wall, ending the lottery system, and amnesty, only one of those 4 things is permanent. The lottery system can be reinstated, the chain migration can be reinstated, the wall the construction can be stopped, or just, maintenance budgets can be slashed and it can just fall into disrepair. But amnesty is forever. And that's the problem. The amnesty can never go away. The amnesty stays forever. So the weight of amnesty, when you think about like the scale of making a deal here, the weight of giving away amnesty far outweighs, in my opinion, the benefits that we would receive from all of these other aspects of a potential deal like this. And you're right. I mean, I'm not going out and saying that Trump is finished, or Trump is a one-term president, or I don't back Trump anymore because of this tweet. But if this is the way his thinking is going to go, and if he is going to make a deal like this, if this deal were to be made, right? Hypothetically, if this deal were to be made, this would be a problem for me. And look, I know that it's a win on immigration, and I know that it's a win on these 3 immigration subtopics. But in the broader scheme of things, in the broader fight that we have for this country to fix our demographics and restore our demographics, this would be a massive net loss. This would be a massive move in the wrong direction to give these people permanent protection. No deal would be better than amnesty. Right, kicking the can down the road would be better than amnesty here, because we could wait until 2018 and get a more favorable Congress, and you could get a better set of minutia in that deal with a more favorable Congress, or possibly not even giving away DACA at all. So no deal is better than a bad deal on this. I'm concerned, right? This is one of those things that is non-negotiable. This is one of the only two topics for me with President Trump that is non-negotiable. And I think this goes for a lot of people. Immigration and war are the two non-negotiables about the Trump presidency. And I'd be willing to talk. Like if we were to go to war with somebody, but we completely fixed immigration, okay, that's a deal we can possibly talk about. But just giving away DACA is a non-starter for so many reasons.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't think anybody's like eager to give away DACA. I mean, it would be a compromise. That's well,
the thing is, we don't have politics.
To. Well,
there's no leverage here. The Democrats have no leverage.
Well, here's the leverage. Here's the leverage is if no deal is made, right, and the DACA kids get deported, let's say we kick the can down the road and there's no deal made. In 2 years or 4 years, there's no guarantee that we have a Republican Congress. There's no guarantee that we have a Republican White House. And, I mean, I'm just thinking of it pragmatically in the sense that would you rather, after 4 years, have allowed DACA to expire and these people are here illegally, but you have no wall, you have no cut in migration, you have no chain migration, and you don't end the visa lottery system, and the legal immigration continues, and the non-enforcement of illegal immigration continues? Or would you rather? I just think you're comparing a compromise to this like hardline option where we can go it alone and we can have everything we want and we don't have to compromise. And if that exists, of course we're all for that. Of course nobody wants any illegals in the country. I mean, it's an injustice that one illegal immigrant is here, no matter how they got here, no matter why they're here. I don't care if it's a cerebral palsy 11-year-old girl like in Texas. One illegal is one too many. However, if we're comparing real pragmatic outcomes here, if we're comparing, do we want to have this deal, which we don't like, which would have amnesty, which would be it would be a blow. It would not be a good thing. But we come out of this presidency, no matter what, with a cut in immigration, both legal and illegal. We have the wall that will stand, that's physical infrastructure. I don't think the Democrats would tear it down. Maybe they would, I don't know, but at least you would have it. Or would you rather DACA expires, who knows if we even enforce it, and the next administration comes in, they give them amnesty and, everything else. I just think we have to look at the deal. If there's going to be a compromise made, we got to look at it. I don't think we can throw deal making out the window, because you look at our majorities in the House and the Senate, they're not strong enough where we can pull this hard line and not make a concession. It would be nice, and I hope the concessions are like economical, like I hope they're smart and it's not, we're not just giving away the whole fucking store. However, the majorities just aren't there where we can afford to say we can wait them out, because time is not on our side. And once this administration goes, there's no guarantee in the world that we'll have a Republican or even a Republican like Trump. We could have a Marco Rubio. I think you're putting too much faith in like our institutional power that, in my opinion, is a window of opportunity. It's not set in stone. I mean, I think, if it was legalization for DACA, that would be different than amnesty. Like, if it were giving legalization, I think that's something we could compromise on, right? If they don't get citizenship, if they don't get voting rights, if they can't, collect Social Security or whatever, but they're just here legally, and you get all these other goodies that for decades and decades will help the demographic situation. I don't know. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think we would have to look at it and consider. We have to look at the text of the law, but I don't think compromises. I think it's necessary at this point, unfortunately.
Well, on the things that we want, like cutting chain migration, these are things that are supported by the vast majority of Americans. Mm-hmm. When they do public polling on do you want more immigrants in the country, the majority of Americans says either cut immigration drastically or end immigration. So when you put this up to the American people, they will say we want fewer immigrants, we want fewer immigration, we want less immigration. Sorry. So these are things that we don't really need to make a deal on. Things like something like chain migration. You don't need to make a deal on that. The majority of people support that. The majority of Republicans would look at their legislative offices back home and say, okay, how do we vote on this? And they would see, 70% of our constituents don't want more chain migration. They would be forced to fall in line on something like chain migration. So chain migration should be a given, right? right? This should not even be something that is part of the deal. We should just be ending this, okay? And so then when we separate these things off, separate chain migration off, you then look at the diversity visa lottery. After the terrorist attacks committed by a guy on that diversity visa lottery, it should be a slam dunk to get that right eliminated, right? This is something, again, that the majority of Americans don't support. So these two things, the two big wins out of a hypothetical DACA deal, shouldn't even be on the table. They should just be givens. So then what you're left with is negotiating legal immigration cuts and amnesty for the illegals, amnesty for the DACA illegals. Again, you can look at the polling, and the majority of Americans want fewer immigrants. They want less immigration. The Republicans won a House and Senate majority and the presidency with a message of cutting immigration, slashing immigration. Or Trump, was out there explicitly saying we're going to vastly reduce the amount of legal immigration we have into our country. And so this is not something that you're going to have to lead the horse to water on. I think they're already there with this on legal immigration cuts. So really the only thing that we have to even be negotiating is a DACA deal, right? These other three things shouldn't be negotiation points, and they certainly won't be after 2018 when the Republicans pick up more seats in the Senate as they're expected to do. Now the House may get a little bit trickier, but either time we do it, the situation will be the same, essentially the same on these three topics. There'll be majorities in all houses and the presidency, and so I don't really see the impetus for making a deal and putting these three things up as the counterbalances for DACA. The DACA amnesty, it is amnesty. It's not citizenship, but there are ways for these people to work the system where they can get the benefits. They can get the welfare. In fact, they do oftentimes get the benefits and the welfare. And there have been cases, I heard about this. I was trying to find the source on this. I've heard of cases of them getting, citizenship. There are workarounds they can do with certain, procedures and policies, and we know that our federal government is not supremely efficient at anything, and so I don't know, I wouldn't trust them to keep these people prohibit them from getting citizenship. It's too much risk. It's too much risk and not enough benefit. We're not getting anything here that we shouldn't be able to get ourselves. When you really break it down and itemize it, there's nothing here being won that is so compelling that we should give away the House and give up amnesty for these 1.2 million DACA people.
But do you think that's how it works? Do you think if you called Susan Collins up on the phone, or Bob Corker, or Marco Rubio, or any of these more left-leaning guys in the House, and you said, hey, national polling for the American people says that, this many people support ending chain migration, do you think they'd be like, oh, I didn't know that, Sonny. Let me go and vote to end. It doesn't. I agree with you. The country is against chain migration. The country is against more immigrants. That's why Donald Trump got elected. But you look at what happened. You look at what happened in 2016 in a place like Virginia, in a place like Alabama, where the Republican Party, can we really count on them to deliver a strong enough return in 2018 where we can bank on that, on everybody voting in line with us in both the House and the Senate? Because you said the House is going to be trickier. Well, that's not like an arbitrary complication. If we don't have a majority in the House, if we don't have a strong majority in the House, forget about passing any legislation on immigration. We can't pass legislation on immigration when we have a pretty, not a substantial majority, but a clear majority. And that's with Trump in office. That's when we have two majorities. That's when we have, or the Congress at least, has a mandate to adjust immigration. I don't want to give away DACA any more than you do. I really don't. But are we going to pretend that giving legalization to 800,000 people in exchange for addressing the real problem, which is the system, which is building a physical barrier between us and Mexico, ending legal immigration, which in the next 50 years will probably be more from Asia than it will from Central and South America. That's, this is thinking long-term as well. Is it worth the 800,000 that are here to end the rate at which new people are coming in the future? I think, again, if you're coming at it from the perspective that we can have everything we want, and that means that we can get it passed through the House and the Senate and signed by the president, by the same cucks, by the same people that couldn't repeal Obamacare. This is a party that every single one of them was elected on a platform of repealing Obamacare. This is something everyone agreed on. from Fox News to Nationalist Review to Breitbart, and they couldn't get that right. By one vote, they couldn't get that right. John McCain, of all people, ran against Barack Obama and lost. They couldn't do that. If we were in a position where those people could get together and give us every hardline thing we wanted on immigration with such a slim majority, I would say you're right. Nothing to give. But, the time, long-term and short-term time is against us. The political winds are against us. The establishment is against us. To give legalization for 800,000 people, and, a lot of them are not good, but a lot of them, compared to other people that are coming in, are better. Compared to, ending long-term legal immigration, building a wall, again, we'd have to see the deal, but a lot of nice provisions I think we'd have to look at. I don't think, we're really not in a strong position here, and Trump is using his leverage pretty intelligently, but long term it's against us. I don't see how the deal happens if there's not a concession,
Right. That's the thing. There's no deal. Don't make a deal on this. Right. Yeah. No. Because look, here's the thing: if you give up the DACA deal and you let these 1.2 million, not 800,000. If you let these 1.2 million people stay, these people are going to have kids. They're going to move across the country. They're going to further create a negative demographic situation for us and decrease the probability of winning these further races. Okay. These races for these based congressional candidates that we need to get in office. So by allowing these people to stay, and allowing them to remain in the country and allowing them to further alter our demographic picture and further change our demographic landscape, it will be, in fact, preventing wins in the future for the nationalist right, for identitarians, for the people who we need to get in office. Right, so we're actually creating a ticking time bomb by allowing DACA to stay in place, because it will have massive negative electoral impact come 18 years from now, come 20 years from now, 22 years from now. And so the short-term benefits are simply not enough for the long-term benefits that the long-term negative benefits that we'll receive from DACA legalization. And again, the immigration numbers can be expanded, right? The amount of immigrants we take in can be expanded. We can never rescind amnesty. It just can't be done. And Reagan learned this lesson the hard way. Look, with Reagan, we did the same thing. This was the same thought process that there was for Reagan. People were telling Reagan, people were telling Reagan the same things they're telling Trump now, that you're not in a strong position. You can't come out on top of a deal like this. Your best bet is to get these concessions in exchange for amnesty. Well, look where that got us. I mean, look where that got us. It got us to where we are now, where the demographic situation is much, much worse than it was in the late 80s. Now we're hanging on the precipice of becoming a minority in our own country. And that is thanks to actions in 1960s, of course, but also to Ronald Reagan and his amnesty programs. We've seen this in the past. It never works. And frankly, I think that anything short of a complete victory on this is a loss that cannot be justified.
Yeah, but how's it going to happen? I mean, maybe we allow DACA to expire, and then what happens next? You got 1.2 million people here suddenly become illegal. Do you think they're going to deport 1.2 million people? Has that been happening?
They'll deport enough. No, and that's the thing is that, again, this involves the metapolitical realm where you have to create a culture. You have to shift the culture where illegals know that they are not welcome here. Okay, so if we make a deal for them, that signals to the Mexicans and Mexicans and Guatemalans, whoever else wants to come into the country, that this is a country that is not serious about immigration. This is a country that will make a deal and allow you to stay if you're there illegally. But if we start, all it takes is a couple big deportation rates, a couple thousand, a dozen thousand people, 12,000, 15,000 people deported. And you will start to see a cultural shift where people know that America takes this seriously. America does not want you there. You are not welcome if you go to America, and you will be prosecuted and deported for doing so. Making a deal signifies weakness. Making a deal on protecting your own nation signifies weakness. And we can't be that weak on immigration. We can't be so weak that we're afraid to deport people who are in our country illegally, that have invaded our country, broken the law. They need to go back, and we can't make a deal that rewards them for their misbehavior.
Okay, but this is all not tangible. This is all changing the culture, signaling weakness. This is all not tangible. At the end of the day, I would much rather have, and this is the honest to goodness truth, I would much rather have, if we got a really great deal. We get ending chain migration, ending the lottery system, cutting legal immigration in half over the next 10 years. We get funding for the border wall. We get E-Verify. I would rather have these 5 things. And let's say hypothetically, really good deal. We get these 5 in exchange for 1.2 million DACA recipients getting legalization than I would getting nothing and like having this culture change. Because, the culture change doesn't change the fact that 1.4 million new immigrants are coming here every year. In the next 4 years, if you take the numbers from 2015, in the next 4 years, you're going to have 5.6 million people coming here. That's, 5.6 million new people coming here in the 4 years that Trump is president. And that's legal. And those are people that are legal. They sign the paper, they can vote. And, these people, it's not about amnesty or whatever. They're here, they're citizens. If we could cut that in half, and think of that over the next 10 years, or the next 15 years, or 20 years, if we can end chain migration where the legal immigration can stop, and we can cut that even further compared to the 1.2 million here, where if we get a wall, if we get E-Verify. I mean, these are tangible things. These are tangible good things that will last a long time. You keep bringing up Reagan, who compromised on immigration. The problem with the Simpson-Mazzoli Act that was passed under Ronald Reagan was that it was not, they didn't pass like, we're going to do E-Verify, we're going to build a wall. They said, we will promise funding for border security. And that's bullshit. That was a stupid deal by a dumb politician because, of course, no funding really goes to where it's intended to. Social Security was supposed to be that you put it in all your life, it goes into a fund, and you get it back. That is never how it works in effect in government, where the money goes to where it's earmarked by the own government. You would, because they earmark money for quote-unquote border security, if the president doesn't want border security, and for the past 30 years, I think even under Reagan, they did not faithfully execute that, the funding would not go there. But under Donald Trump, where the guy is ideologically committed to it, where he earmarked that money not for border security, but for the wall, and you get E-Verify, and you end chain migration, and you end the visa lottery system. These are tangible, solid provisions that again, is it a bad thing? Does it signal a bad thing? Is it a fucking bad compromise? Yeah, I hate compromise. I really do. But I would rather have these tangible good things that are going to have a real, like I could see it, we could look at it in the numbers, we could see it on the news. The demographic situation improving than like this, well, we won't make a deal. And, it's kind of like Nationalist Review stuff. Like, we won't make a deal about the security of our country. Meanwhile, legal immigration continues. There's no border wall. There's no guarantee we win the House in 2018. There's no guarantee we win the White House in 2020. They're shutting us down. I mean, like, the situation is rapidly deteriorating where we could get a hardline deal. Hardline deal was 20 years ago. Now it's time to make, unfortunately, not a good thing, but I don't see any other way where a small concession, if we look at the deal, might be necessary.
The problem is that in 14 years, the children of DACA recipients start voting, and at that point, everything that we win in this negotiation goes out the window. Everything is gone. Chain migration is back in force. In fact, it won't even just be chain migration. It'll just be what we would see today as an open border system.
They have birthright citizenship. The kids, it doesn't matter if DACA recipients are legalized, the kids have birthright citizenship. Right,
that's the problem. That's the problem.
Okay, but again, if you don't give them amnesty, they're still going to be here. They're not going to deport 1.2 million people in the next, in the time it would take for them to have kids.
But if you give them amnesty, none of them can be deported. And so by giving them amnesty, you're making it so that they cannot be deported. And you're then incentivizing them to set up permanent lives in the U.S. Right now, you read these articles, they are in a state of limbo. They don't know whether they're going back or not. And so they're not making any long-term decisions about staying in this country. If you give them amnesty, they will know they're here to stay. They will start having kids. They will start taking steps to get more education and take more American jobs. Right? That will be a signal to them that they are here to stay, and we know what their birth rates are. We know what the birth rate and demographic situation is. They're having, on average, three kids per household.
That's not true.
Right?
The Hispanic birth rate's like 2.5.
Okay, so 2.5 instead of 3. Uh-huh. The white birth rate's like 1.8. Right? So we're seeing that that trend emerge already. You will start to see them more likely to have kids once they know they're here to stay and they're not going to get deported. So they're going to have more kids. That is going to have a massive negative effect on demographics going forward, and it will lead to more of a leftward shift. So come 2025, come 2030, when these people can vote, when some of the earlier children of DACA recipients can then vote, you will see all of these concessions that we win go out the window. The border security funding will be slashed. The chain migration system will massively deteriorate. It'll be expanded back to today's levels, if not bigger. They will be used by the left as political pawns to drive the borders further open.
But again, I mean, the numbers change. The numbers. You got 1.2 million DACA kids, and they have kids, and, granted, of course. But compared to 1.5 million per year, if we could cut that in half, if we're talking about pure numbers, let's just take the 1.5 million per year number as a hypothetical. If we could, under the REEEEE Act, cut that in half, the net cut on immigration will be what, 750,000 over 10 years? So that's 7.5 million people, right? Compared to 1.2 million DACA. This is just arithmetic. This is just simple math, where if you're having 1.5 million people coming per year, and you cut that number in half, in the long term, over 10 years, and we are talking about the long term, we're talking about voting and having kids and, the left and rightward shift of the country, 7.5 million people less coming here, and even more with chain migration, and more illegals leaving through E-Verify, and less illegals coming through the wall, compared to 1.2 million DACA and their kids. I mean, even if their birth rate was 3, I mean, replacement rate is 2.1. So 3 is not like, if it was 2.1, the numbers would be staying the same. 3 is, a bit more problematic, but it's about 2.5. If they grow a little bit more, say, even let's go crazy and say we double it. Say they all have a really high birth rate, and in 10 years they double their population. It's now 2.4 million. You got their parents and now their kids. It's double, 2.4 million. That's still a third of the cut that would come from the REEEEE Act. And that's a hypothetical, but that's why we have to look at the deals. We have to look at the math. Have to look at tangible, hard stuff. I don't see where you see that, well, they're not going to faithfully enforce the deal. If it's going to be like the Simpson-Mazzoli Act, well, we're not going to get the border security. They're not going to faithfully execute it. But at the same time, you say that when DACA expires, they will faithfully deport all 1.2 million of them and prevent them from having kids.
I didn't say that. I said they can be deported. I said they can be deported.
Okay, but they won't, though. If they won't enforce the border security, they're not going to deport 1 million people, right?
Right. You're never going to get all 1.2 million, but what you can get is a understanding among these people that they can be deported, right? And that will take a toll psychologically that will cause them to not make long-term decisions that would lead to potentially what Mitt Romney described as self-deportation, but also they would not be having the kids in the U.S. that would then, because they would be concerned about being sent back. Right, that's the thing, is we want them to stop having kids, stop having families that are large enough that they displace the Native American, or the American population. Right, that's what we're concerned about. The 1.2 million, I completely admit, is a small number compared to what we're hypothetically getting with these other immigration numbers. Mm-hmm. However, what we have to take into consideration is that they are going to have children. Their children are going to have children. They're going to vote 80% for the left, and they're going to have families that are bigger than the American population, than Americans.
Yeah, but aren't the legal ones going to do the same? Aren't they going to have kids, and their kids are going to have kids? I mean, isn't it? If you're talking about it, the
right, and that's why none of them should be here. That's why none of them should be here.
Okay, but do you see where that? I mean, ideally, I would agree with that, but. If we could get none of them, if I could get a legislation passed called get the fuck out of our country, I would pass that, but I don't see it happening.
But DACA, the thing is, DACA isn't legislative. DACA was done by Trump, or was done by Obama, and DACA can be rescinded at the executive level through the executive branch. Yeah. All he has to do is instruct DHS to start knocking down doors and getting these people out of here.
Yeah, but I mean, you yourself have been the one complaining that hasn't been happening. So again,
right, because they put it in this 6-month purgatory.
No, but even with the rest of the illegals, even with the rest of them, I mean, you see the Dreamers protesting, you see illegal immigrants all over, and I just don't understand how you can say they will not faithfully execute the law in terms of if they get funding for the wall, if they get E-Verify, if they get a cut in legal immigration and chain migration, they won't enforce it. And therefore, the better solution is to wait for them to enforce illegal immigration. I don't have enough faith that no deal would be better than a concession. In my mind, they are de facto amnestied already. Right? I mean, isn't that the inevitability? I mean, if you're talking about 7 million people over the course of 10 years coming here, and they're going to have kids, and their kids are going to have kids, that's more than 1 million having kids and their kids having kids. And, you say psychologically, well, E-Verify prevents illegal immigrants from getting jobs. I mean, that would be they wouldn't be able to feed their families. We don't have E-Verify. E-Verify would be better to institute that psychological pressure than like allowing DACA to expire. I mean, they know they're here illegally, but if they can't get a job, they can't eat. But that wouldn't, I mean, if there's no deal, that won't be in place.
We already know that these E-Verify programs don't work, though.
We do?
That's the problem. Yeah.
Says who?
They just get paid cash. Look at the agriculture industry. These people are paid under the table. The majority of illegal aliens that are working are not working with like social security cards. they're working with cash payments.
So
E-Verify would eliminate what E-Verify would do is it would eliminate some of the fraud that comes from like multiple security or social security card use, right? Where like 8 people work on the same card. That would work, right? That would have an effect. The problem is it wouldn't answer the problems in a lot of these sectors where illegal aliens do work: construction, agriculture, some types of manufacturing, where they are just paid cash. So while we could say that it would harm illegal alien labor somewhat, it wouldn't wholly eliminate it, because what would happen is a lot of that illegal alien labor would stay in the country. Some would self-deport, of course, but a lot of it would just shift sector.
So you're telling me that we should, allow DACA to expire and have no deal because, like, the pressure would be on. The psychological, I'm here illegally, I will not make a long-term decision. But E-Verify, even though it would make it illegal for employers to hire illegal and, they would have to do it extremely black market under the table.
That's already illegal.
Couldn't get an I-9 verification form. Right, but I mean, it would be, like, you would have no forms, like, it would make it much, much more difficult. That is of no consequence.
It's minor. I'm just saying it's not like a silver bullet that's going to eliminate illegal alien labor. It'll eliminate some types of illegal alien labor, but illegals aren't usually working in the sort of white collar or blue collar work where E-Verify would come in handy. A lot of times they're working at cash labor, where you show up at the job site, swing a hammer for 8 hours, and take your $80 and go home. Right, and illegal E-Verify is not. You're not going to see people out on job sites running E-Verify. Is the problem?
I don't understand your thinking on this. We have tangible things. We have a wall. We have E-Verify. We have cutting chain migration, ending and you're saying I don't know. No, I don't want these goodies.
No, because they've been forced into a deal where they shouldn't be. Right, the Republicans are so.
What's the alternative?
And Trump is so politically incompetent that he didn't get one of his guys. He didn't get Tom Cotton out there. He didn't get Steve King out there pushing a elimination of the visa lottery program right after this truck attack. Right, he wasn't using his bully pulpit to go after this. He's been, like we've talked about this before. He's been a little bit wishy-washy, been a little bit ADD, a little bit all over the place, and he has not been politically as effective as he should have been. He would have been wise. He could have won the visa lottery debate. He could have won this whole concession of the deal single-handedly, and with the help of legislators, of course. He could have won this independent from DACA if they'd been politically a little bit more competent and on focus, and seized on this after the terror attack. They could have won this. They could be winning the chain migration thing if they had more political focus and they were out there taking this more seriously. But the point being, these things can be won outside of DACA. Okay, these things can be won independently of DACA, and it is much better to debate the DACA deal independently on its merits, because that's a debate we will win. You put that debate in front of the American people, we will win that debate, and they will be very unhappy with their legislators if they start signaling, oh, we're going to compromise on this. You make Force the legislature's hand, okay? Force Congress's hand. Force them to vote up or down yes on a DACA deal, on legalizing illegal aliens that are taking our jobs, causing crime, displacing Americans out of the schools and universities. Make them vote up or down on that. Don't tie in all of this other stuff that is very good. I will admit, E-Verify is a step in the right direction, of course. Ending chain migration, step in the right direction. Cutting legal immigration, definite step in the right direction. Those are all things that can be can be won independently of DACA, right? This is like it's hard to even make an analogy for this. It's like saying we won't attack China, but as part of that deal, we also won't attack Nepal and Indonesia and India. It's like, okay, we have no business attacking those three countries anyways. Like, those are totally ancillary, totally unrelated to this main topic, right? DACA is the main topic here. DACA has to be at the center. And I guarantee you force legislators to vote up or down on protecting DACA illegals, it will not pass. That deal will not pass the Congress until America becomes like 50% European American. Then you can probably pass that. But right now, no one's going to vote yes to allow the illegals to stay. No one who is looking at their constituency and says, "Hey, I want to win," unless you're like Ted Lieu or Luis Gutierrez.
That again,
it would be political suicide for the blue collar Democrats.
That would be a good thing. That's a nice thought, but that will not happen in practice. There will not be an up or down vote on DACA. That's not going to happen. It's about tangible things.
Right, and that's a sign of Trump's political incompetence. It truly is. I
mean, but then you can't say at the same time that he's politically incompetent, but then also I have faith in him more than the law to discretionarily enforce illegal immigration. I don't want legal de jure changes in the immigration system because Trump needs to just enforce the law. Well, you can't say you have no faith in the president, but then I guess you have faith in the president to enforce the law, right? I mean, how do you reconcile these two? Where you have faith in the politicians, but at the same time you don't. The status quo is fine.
Those are two different things. Those are two different things. I'll say his legislative agenda has been incompetent. His use of his bully pulpit, his use of his mandate, his use of the mandate from the American people, the electoral mandate. The first year has been spent getting some good things done, but not using the momentum he had coming into office to really accomplish these things that other presidents couldn't accomplish. Any president could get tax reform, right? Any GOP stooge, Jeb Bush could get tax reform. Only someone like Donald Trump could get these victories in immigration. Only someone like Donald Trump would have the will to get these victories in immigration. And instead of doing these things, instead of laser focus on immigration, which is a very popular issue, which would make Trump more popular if he was focused on immigration, he's spent the first year kind of all over the place doing the Obamacare thing and failing, and that's on Congress, of course, doing the tax reform thing and eventually succeeding. He has not used his leverage. He has not used his power in the way that would be beneficial to him and beneficial to a pro-American agenda. He could be doing better, right? After this terrorist attack, if this was the Democrats in office, after an attack like this, after the every mass shooting, right? The Democrats immediately are on top of guns. After the terrorist attack, Trump was on top of chain migration, on top of the lottery system for about 3 days, and then he moved on to something else. Okay? He has not shown the focus necessary to pull the American people to where he is, to pull the legislators, to force them to where he is. And if he had been doing that better this first term, we would already have chain migration ended. We would already have the visa lottery system ended, the diversity lottery gone. We would have these things.
Okay, but that's not the debate, though. That's getting away from the question, which is you look at chain migration, you look at visa lottery, you look at the wall. Is that worth DACA? It's got nothing to do with like Trump could have done this, would have done that. If he were, he's not effective. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just very simply, is it a good trade? And given what we have, given what our prospects are in the future, given who runs our party, and we never tire of saying who runs our party, but suddenly now we're talking about public polling. I don't know what that has to do with anything. When has the Congress done anything that the public polling has suggested? It's a good deal, and we'll have to wait and see the deal. Yeah,
it's like saying, would you rather give up your right leg or your left leg?
No, it's like
which would you rather cut off? The point is you don't have to do either.
Would you rather give up your pinky toe, or would you rather get killed? Would you rather get shot in the head? I mean, that's That's really the question. Or would you rather give up an arm, or would you rather get your head chopped off? I mean, that's what it comes down to, because you can't argue with the math. You're telling me that you would rather have all, what is it? If it's, you'd rather have all 7 million people coming here over the course of however many years it is. What is it, 10 years? Or over 5 years. No, I'm sorry. The 7 million would be what would be cut by the REEEEE Act, hypothetically. You would rather have those 7 million people here and also have the 1.2 million here, but illegally, than have the 7 million cut and the 1.5 million stay. It's just simple arithmetic, where this is like GOP tier stuff, where it's like, we will have our principles, and it's like, at least we have our Constitution. At least, at least we didn't cuck on DACA. At least we didn't make a deal. At least we never psychologically told them.
Cuts. We can get these cuts without giving up anything, is the point.
No, we can't. How? Again, you're not citing any evidence. If the GOP couldn't get Obamacare passed with 52 senators, with 200 and however many representatives in the House. They got a 217-seat majority in the last thing that they passed.
Obamacare was popular. Chain migration isn't.
Okay, but again...
That's the thing. Obamacare was supported by like 60% of Americans.
Obamacare is popular. In Republican districts, you'll have to show me which Republican districts Obamacare... I believe that was the only issue that was unpopular in every state, for every district for Republicans, and they couldn't get that. These are the same Republicans that wanted the comprehensive immigration reform, that passed Obama's omnibus spending bill that funded sanctuary cities. And you think that... And you would rather have the 7 million over the course of 10 years and the 1.2 million, because you're holding out hope that somehow Donald Trump, in your words, the ineffective legislator, the J Republicans, in your words, that control the Congress, are going to come together and give us a hard line, no compromise, end all immigration. It's just like, what?
No. You're falling for the narrative that the media is putting forward, that there has to be a deal made on these.
I mean, a bill, not a deal, a bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so
it doesn't happen that way. It usually doesn't happen that way. Immigration deals usually don't happen as omnibus, massive packages where the whole system is altered at a time. You can do these things. You separate them out, right? Mm-hmm. You have to force them to separate these things out and make them vote up or down on this. And when you do that, if Trump were doing that, if Trump and his legislative team were doing that, then you would be seeing them able to win victories without giving up these massive concessions. It's very simple framing, very, very easy for them to do this. After the terrorist attack, you present the diversity visa program as a program that allows terrorists into the country. You hammer people with that for about a month, and then you have your legislative system working through committee that whole time when you're out there doing a media blitz. This is what every presidency throughout at least modern history, but probably throughout all of history, is done in America, is you use the bully pulpit, use the presidency, use the operations of the White House and the media personnel you have there to go out and lobby for these changes you want to see. And these things, by the way, would be very, very popular. Getting rid of chain migration, all you have to do is frame that, again, as a program that allows terrorists into the country. Okay? And you will win the people on that. You will win, by the way, the blue state legislators as we get closer to 18, who are very, very concerned about winning re-election in the Trump era, who see their districts that went 70-30 for Trump and think, shit, I better get myself in line, or otherwise I'm facing the risk of being kicked out of office. And if you can you use these issues, the smart politics here would be to use these issues as wedges to force these legislators to pick a side. Either you don't combine them all, because then the legislators can say, oh, I support the DACA deal because it's sympathetic to children or whatever. No, you don't give them that cover. You don't give them that out. What you do is you take this and you run to them, or you run this program out, and you say, you're voting up or down on letting terrorists into the country with chain migration. You're voting up or down on that. Make a decision. That won't pass Congress. Right. It would pass Congress. Getting rid of that would pass Congress. You do the same thing with the family reunification, or that is chain migration. You do the same thing with the diversity visa lottery. You separate these things out, and they will be so unpopular. They are so unpopular that you can get these wins without giving up the 1.2 gorillion DACA recipients.
It's a nice thought, but I guess I mean, those are the positions. I guess you believe that we can, to summarize, I believe that a deal could be made, that politically this is the only way to get what we want. And you believe that with more effective lobbying, with more effective use of the bully pulpit, we don't need to make any concessions. The popularity of these things on their own is sufficient. And if, we were to force the issue over, consistently and with a focused approach, we could get them all. I wish you were right about that. I disagree, though. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if you look at Bob Corker, if you look at Susan Collins, Jeff Flake, John McCain, even Paul Ryan, even, you look at however many moderate Republicans in the House, I think they would push back on that. I don't think it's so simple. It's kind of like, if we only got black people to understand that Democrats are the real racists, if we only got people to understand that, you see, free market capitalism is about economic liberty. If we just got the arguments, it's like the Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan shit, where it's like Republicans have the better ideas, but we don't have any of the celebrities. If we're about the war of ideas, Republicans, I don't see it happening. I think you have too much faith in the dialogue and the discourse. I mean, we're always at a disadvantage there. You could say at once we could use the bully pulpit to say it's about terrorism, and then every media outlet in the country, newspapers, television stations, internet stuff, social media, is look at this crying child, look at these poor helpless kids. And it's, maybe you could say that you'll come out on top marginally, but there will be pushback. It's not like this is Model UN where it's like, we go out for 10 days and we're like, hey, this equals, vote on this, it equals that, and, we'll put it in an up or down vote across the Congress. It's just kind of cartoonish. I don't see it happening. This is our best bet. I don't like to give up DACA. It's bad, but there's no other way. There's no other way. If you could show me how we could get like a massive majority in the Senate and the House, that could be assured and they wouldn't vote no on it, I would say, yeah, let's pass the bill. Let's pass all these bills. But I don't think you have the firepower in the Congress. I don't think you have the institutional power. And, I guess it's premature, like I said initially, before we have a deal in front of us, debate about hypotheticals and all the rest. But I think dealing must be a part. It must be on the table. We don't have enough power to turn our noses up at a deal.
Just going back to this political, and yeah, this is what we've said since the start, right? Is that we need to see a hard deal on the table, and the Democrats. We have to also consider the Democrat side of this too, and this debate that we're having, the Democrats are having the same debate, but from the opposite perspective of, can we give up the wall? Can we give up border security? Can we give up these things? Because that will make it harder for them to reach their eventual goal, which is the total displacement of the American population by third world masses. So the two sides have to come together on this, and it is possible that something is not tenable, and you can't bring the sides together to reach a compromise on it. So that is always a possibility. So I guess we'll have to see on that. Some are pushing back against Trump signaling here. A column in townhall.com from Arthur Shaper. I've never heard of this guy, but he wrote a pretty good column in Town Hall where he says, there cannot be another amnesty in this country. I don't care how many sob stories the nightmare kids it's a good one, have rained down on congressional offices through the phone, or how hard they have campaigned throughout the year. The DACA recipients should never have happened. I have railed against the program from day one. This brazen political ploy shored up Obama's re-election bid and contorted Romney to make nice to Hispanic voters, yet at the same time it pledged self-deport as the final immigration policy. Every state has become a border state. The slow erosion of the nation's sovereignty is killing us all, literally. Every time there is talk in Washington, D.C. about granting legal status to illegal aliens, more illegals crowd our borders. This is true. We've seen the actual numbers of people coming over increase as Trump has softened his stance on immigration. More rapists, murderers, drug dealers crowd the border and surround our cities and towns. How many friends, relatives, and fellow Americans will have to die? No, Mr. President, a DACA fix will not be a fix. It will only affix the Democratic Party's communistic agenda, hot take in Town Hall, as a constant in this country. At least 50% of DACA recipients obtained permits through fraudulent means. There are at least 11 to 16 million illegals more in the country. There's nothing to prevent the illegal aliens, once they've achieved their legal status, from bringing in 5 to 10 of their relatives each, many of whom neither informed nor committed to the identity, vitality, or integrity of the United States. This is very true. So, and that's another angle too, is that these people, once you legalize the DACA kids, then their relatives can get visit visas more easily to come and visit them, and that is, of course, one of the ways that anchor babies happen is birth tourism. So, I don't know. The debate is now emerging on the conservative side. I haven't seen Ann Coulter jump in on this yet. I'm sure when she does, let me check her Twitter right now. I'm sure when she does, she'll have a passionate take. Oh yeah, she did tweet about it. She says, I just missed it. Let me find it. It's right here. No DACA until there's a wall and hell freezes over. Yeah. So I'm not sure how to read that. I guess she's saying that she doesn't want the deal. Yeah, that's the interpretation there. She doesn't want the DACA deal. So we'll see. You're seeing the immigration hardliners coming out against it, of course. Stephen Miller hasn't said anything. He's really not in a position to. But I read a piece this morning on, I think, Axios. I don't know if it's a legit site, but they're saying that Stephen Miller is one of the most well-enshrined advisors. And for both of us, I think that's a good thing, because Stephen Miller is the guy who pushes a lot of the anti-immigration legislation. So Miller being well-trusted in the White House is obviously a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a good deal, if it's... I've been arguing from the perspective of concession, but that is only if we get something really good, and we'd have to look at the deal. I don't want it to happen. If it doesn't have to happen, it shouldn't. If Trump would nut up and deport these DACA people, that would be nice. But because we want that, but. It's just you got to balance. Yeah. You got to balance the principle with the pragmatic, and
it's all that Diet Coke he drinks messing with his brain.
That's right. He's drinking
too much caffeine, giving him a short attention span.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll look at the deal. It's premature, I think, right now because we don't have anything in front of us. But I would agree that if we deported the DACA kids, I guess that's an angle I hadn't considered. If we started with that, there wouldn't be anything to negotiate about, right? No.
Well, I think on the table. I think that's what is probably a likely solution at this point, because if you can't bring the Democrats over, and if this deal, which exists, it is hypothetically exists in its current state, if this is the deal that the Republicans want to run with, you'd be hard pressed to get Democrats to go along with this, right? You'd be hard pressed to get Democrats, especially in border states, to fund the construction of the wall. So it's possible that this just times out, that the can gets kicked far enough down the road that Paco picks it up and finds himself in the back of an ICE van.
Yeah, I think we could all agree that everything would be much better if Trump were deporting millions of illegals every month, or every 6 months or whatever. I think, all the immigration concerns would be much tighter. Jeff Sessions, if he were deporting these bastards, and, Homeland Security were deporting these people, I think we would have much more leverage and power if we were actually exercising the executive to the fullest extent. But not happening, unfortunately.
Plastic handcuff nationalism. Ice van nationalism, yeah. That's what we need. That is the answer. That's the answer to all these questions. Well, that took us much longer than I expected it to. What do you say we save all this other stuff for after the break? The Star Wars and the intern stuff for after.
Sounds
and
good
we
to me.
pick it up from there. Cool. All right, guys. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Hour 2 here of Nationalist Review. Opening with a very special, and for the first time on the program, a very special little segment here. We got the P.O. Box set up, right? So we've had the P.O. Box down there in the description. We haven't really talked about it a lot. We have the P.O. Box, of course, listed down below in every episode description. And over the past couple months that we've had some interesting things sent to it. Not a lot of stuff sent to it, but some items, some select little gifts. And right before Christmas, we got a few more little trinkets here. So this is the first thing we got. This was like last month, or maybe the month before. One of our friends, he mentioned this, I think, either on the Patreon chat or on Twitter. He mentioned it somewhere. He sent us a copy of Henry Sedgwick, The Methods of Ethics, 7th edition. I haven't looked into it. It's been in my car. I opened it at the post office and put it in my car, and I haven't cracked into it. But forward by John Rawls, interesting here. Copyright editor, forward copyright 1981 by John Rawls. It's a very dense book. This is a very dense book. It's a reprint. Looks like, of an older book. Very cool. When I get through I have a stack right now on my bookshelf, or on my bedside table, of like 6 books I need to get through. But I'll add this one to the bottom, and I'll make my way through it. I'm currently working on a book about ancient Rome and the fall of Rome. Is what I'm currently working on. So thank you to whoever sent us this Methods of Ethics book. Do appreciate it. Secondly, this was about a week ago. We got another thing in the mailbox, and this is the board game Triggered. It's your turn to trump political correctness. It's a little board game here. I don't have the camera running today, so you can't see the box, but the cover has a soy-laden, clearly male with a scrawny beard, Antifa patch on his shirt, and says, "You're a white male," and he has the female sign earrings. Very cool. And let's see what it says here on the side. On the side it has a picture of Pepe on the side, and then someone taking a red pill on the side there. It says triggeredgame.com. Players 2 to 5, ages 18 and up, IQ 100 and up. So you have to be someone who is a Rick and Morty fan to like this game. I'm gonna pop into this actually. I still have it plastic wrapped. Nick, when we go out to Wisconsin to campaign for Mr. Nealon, we got to bring this along and play this. We should do a live stream playthrough for paywall content. Let's crack it open here. It's wrapped, very nice, very nice. It has the game boards. It looks like the different levels of Triggered here. It starts at not okay, problematic, insensitive, deeply offensive, deplorable, sexist, racist, supremacist, literally Hitler, trigger warning, and then ending with triggered. So very fun. We'll have to play this instead of like pit stops or something. The challenges are called IQ checks. Looks like the IQ check cards here. Very fun. And then privilege check are other cards. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll play this on a live stream. Set up the webcam and we'll do a playthrough on the channel. So thank you to whoever sent us those gifts. If you want to have your mail opened on the air, send it off to P.O. Box 236, Pullman, Washington 99163. Or letters or whatever else, and we'll read them on air if you want. Won't dox you. We'll protect your name if you want us to, but send that in. We do appreciate it. So, news breaking actually just like yesterday, I think, is when most of this stuff broke. Iran is mired in protest. Anti-government protests have continued in Iran for a third day, with reports of demonstrations in many cities despite warnings from authorities. Nick, what is going on? I know I'm usually the resident Iranophile here, but what is going on in Iran?
Yeah, well, they have the freedom protesters. They just want to be liberated, James. They just want freedom, Well, so it's the third day of protests in Iran, anti-government protests, down with the Ayatollah there. They already have, and this is great. I was watching video of the protest yesterday. They had this girl. She got up in front of the crowd, and she took off her hijab. James, she got up in front of the mob and took off her hijab as a show of solidarity with the people. They just want to be Western. They just want to be free. They just want to be subject to the corruption and degeneracy of the West. And already they've made that into the symbol of the new color revolution happening in Iran. And I saw some
perhaps she's auditioning for Kilroy event. She wants to be one of the former Muslims. Speaking of Kilroy,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, she wants to be in Milo Yiannopoulos' groupie or whatever. But so it's what was I just gonna say? I lost my train of thought. It was but so it's been going on for 3 days, and it's funny because this was anteceded by a covert secret deal between Israel and the United States, which, according to The Forward and other Israeli sources, was designed to go after Iran in various different on-the-ground ways, various on-the-ground methods. And I saw some reports today that the Iranian army was firing on the protesters, and people are killed, and it's just very interesting to watch. It's very interesting to watch that.
Right, and pretty soon we're gonna have to be, sending our support to these brave rebels, right? These brave rebels who are using social media and hip new Twitter technology to coordinate their protests and everything. Not like this happened literally this exact script 7 years ago, right?
Right.
Arab Spring.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's Egypt, Libya, Tunisia. I mean,
they all just turned out to be like worse than the people before.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's funny because you have in the Middle East, you have a whole catalog of different kinds and different levels of American intervention, from an all-out invasion to like a NATO airstrike coalition bombing to like peaceably supporting protesters to actively supporting protesters. I mean, from Libya to Egypt to Iraq, Yemen, Syria, you have the whole catalog of different kinds of American military intervention. And it's funny because not a single one of them has been an improvement on the order that existed previously. No matter how bad, whether it's Saddam Hussein, whether it's Mubarak, whether it's Gaddafi, no matter who it is, it's always worse, no matter what we do. And here we are again, the same mistakes, and it's just fascinating to watch because this is really a new era in the Middle East. You have Donald Trump, you have Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, and you have this very aggressive Iran. You have ISIS on the way out. This is Donald Trump's Middle East. This is the Donald Trump order in the Middle East, and it's just going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Because this is a real shakeup from the Obama-Bush Middle East that happened for the past 10 to 15 years. This is a new era here, so it'll be interesting. I don't know what's going on. It's a little early to tell. Obviously, the Israel-U.S. deal is very shady, and it's never any good when Israel gets involved in the greater realm aspect of the Mideast. But it'll be, I guess, interesting to see how this plays out because, of course, you've seen similar things in the reverse where you've had Shiite rebellions or Shiite insurrections in places like Qatar and Bahrain, or in the eastern provinces of Saudi Arabia, inspired by Iran. Of course, you have the Houthi rebels in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon. So it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out, this rivalry between the kingdom and Iran, and with Donald Trump now in office, how he'll respond. Putin now a player, if he'll get involved. So I don't know. I'm just watching this as an observer, as an enthusiast of the Middle East. It's just kind of interesting to see it all play out. But I'll be fucking damned if we go back to war or there's any kind of intervention. I mean, what a disaster that would be.
Well, I mean, when these peaceful, nice, kind people, these people who just want democracy, and they just need that help, Nick. I mean, they want democracy, they want freedom, and they want a constitution like we have, and it's our job to provide that to them. And whether that means toppling their regime or airstriking their government, I mean, they want democracy. And how could we be so selfish as to keep the beautiful benefits of democracy away from them? That would be terrible. So I think if these people just need democracy, I think we're obligated, in fact, to intervene on their behalf. Isn't that right? Isn't that how foreign policy in the Middle East works?
Yeah, that's right. We got to spread freedom, James. We got to, unless there's a McDonald's in Tehran, unless there's a fucking tranny strip club in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a joke. Well, and it's, the best part is like, Iran, they have a democratic process. Iran's government is actually really solid. If you look at the mechanisms that are involved, I mean, there's really this healthy balance between clerical authority, military, and otherwise. I mean, all kinds of different political institutions that we don't have in the West. I think, that's a better model for us than what we have here. So
they're absolutely the most stable country in the region.
Yeah.
You can look at all of the other countries in the region, and Iran is by far the most stable.
That's true. That even compared to Saudi Arabia, I mean...
Well, especially in the past couple of months compared to Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
So, well, and it's...
But we have to spread some of that white phosphorus democracy, I think.
It's just the hubris of this country that we see Iran, and, they are our adversary, and we got into this a little bit before, but I mean, regardless of whether you believe that there can be this relationship, it has been antagonistic. It has been a rivalry between the United States and her client states, and vice versa with Russia. But this idea that the angle that they're coming at it from, that Netanyahu has been pushing, that Donald Trump is now pushing, that the media is pushing, it's very peculiar how they're all pushing the same line. And I noticed this months ago when Bibi Netanyahu was coming out with these little videos, these 1 to 2 minute videos in English, of course.
In English.
Yeah,
in
right.
English, yeah.
These people speak Hebrew, but, he's in English. It really makes you think about how the Iranian people are they're decent. It's the Iranian government that's the problem. They need to be liberated. And now Donald Trump. The world is watching. The Iranian people deserve better. The media, the conservative establishment, the Zionists, of course, in the foreign policy establishment, now saber rattling with Iran. They want to depose the regime, liberate the people. Gee, where have we heard this one before? I've heard this tune before, But I just hope it doesn't end up like it looks like it's going to, because, I was skeptical when people said war in Syria, and I was right to be, but this is far worse. This is far more, ominous.
December 28th, Times of Israel. Report, U.S.-Israel signed secret pact to tackle Iran nuclear and missile threat. Dramatic understandings were agreed at the White House on December 12th, and deal signed by the two countries' national security chiefs, Channel 10 says in Israel. That's December 28th. December 30th, the world is watching. Trump warns Iran amid anti-government protests. What a dramatic coincidence that these two things are taking place 2 weeks from each other.
Yeah. Isn't that
the deal being signed in these protests. I mean.
Doesn't that make you think, huh? Right? I mean,
I don't want to think too hard, otherwise we'll get banned from something else.
That's right.
I thought a little bit when I was talking to Elliot Hamilton, and he was laughing and celebrating how millions of goyim were genocided for having the wrong opinions. And I told him, Elliot, you're kind of a rat. You're kind of a sicko rat for bragging about how millions of people were genocided for being sympathizers for the wrong people. That's what he said. He said, I'm cut from the same ideological cloth as the people who killed millions of Nazi sympathizers. It's like, okay, dude, cool. Brag about the Holodomor, bro. That's pretty sweet. And but I got banned for telling him that he shouldn't brag about Goyim being genocided. Really, that also really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, this whole thing, it's just so obvious whose fingers are all over this, whose fingerprints are all over this damn thing, and the whole thing with Iran, I mean...
It's the Mormons, man. It's radical Mormons.
The Canadians, yeah, right?
Joseph Smith's legacy lives on through our American foreign policy. Yeah, clown world. Well, another clown world story. This one from the White House. White House intern made the OK symbol in a photo, and Twitter threw a fit. This dude. You want to talk about clown world and people getting angry over nothing? This article from News. I didn't realize how bad Newsweek was. Have you realized how bad Newsweek is? I used to think Newsweek was like kind of a reasonable source, but they are like absolutely insane. They put out this article saying, did a White House intern use a white power symbol in a Trump photo? He says he was copying the president. Clearly, like implying that yes, it was a white power symbol, and yes, Trump is a white supremacist. Which is, I just love this. This is from, again, Newsweek. A White House intern taking a presidential photo with Donald Trump is now denying he posed with a questionable symbol that has become synonymous with the so-called alt-right. The intern, Jack Brewer, stands in the back of the intern class photo shoot with the president, posing with the symbol while his peers give the thumbs up instead, according to the Daily Mail. Of course, the symbol they're referring to is the thumb and pointer finger. The OK, it's the OK sign, right? It's the OK sign you do with your hand, right? It's existed for probably hundreds of years. This is not a new thing. The interns recently received the photos in time for Christmas. Brewer posted an apology on Twitter for his prank. But to understand why he posted the apology, we have to look at the response on Twitter. People like Brian Krasenstein tweeted the picture along with the white power diagram. He says, "Meet Jack Brewer. He was a White House intern. He recently posed with the President of the United States. Notice the hand gesture he's making. That's the hand gesture for white power. Yep, we have Nazis in the White House." Oh no, you made the okay. And what they don't realize is that they're falling for a 4chan prank. Right? Because the okay sign, people started doing it because Trump was doing it. And he did it in all of his speeches. He would have the gesture. And then 4chan went out and said, oh no, this is actually a white power sign to troll people. And the media actually fell for it.
Yeah. Well, it's just funny that this is still a thing, right? I mean, this was... The media controversy about this is like months old, you know? So it's just funny that this guy hasn't gotten the memo. That everybody was like, oh, we got duped. Shit. I mean, it's the meme of it has become a meme. You know, I mean, people do it like double ironically since everybody figured out that was, you know, Mike Cernovich was doing it. Yeah. Jim Hoft was doing it. How controversial could it be? And this guy,
no, it's cringe now, dude. After April, after May, it became cringe, okay? Because in June we started doing the finger, the ISIS finger.
Yeah.
We appropriated that to mean America First. The ISIS finger became the America First symbol. And so that was how you really knew if you were legit, was if you had the ISIS finger. So this hand sign is old news. If this kid was really radical, he would have done the America First finger. Because that's our symbol.
Old news. Well, these guys are just... It's so dumb to see these, like, millennials, because it's always millennials. I don't know if you identify with millennials, but it's always these, like, millennials and Gen Xers in media, these kind of old fags compared to the young guys, who they come up on, like, the Groiper, for example, or the OK symbol. And these are people like the Will Sommers of the world, Who's that faggot? Jared Holt. They come up on these on these memes, and they're like old men. They're like, you know, the Groiper is a symbol of hate. The Groiper, you know, they're all nerds, they're all dorks. It's like you faggots are talking about what a few autists online are tweeting to make fun of you. You know, I mean, how pathetic.
It's a symbol of being cozy.
That's right, and earnest. And I love the Groiper, I really do. Big Groiper guy.
Yeah, very pro Groiper. I got de-verified after making my avatar a Groiper, so I think there's some meme magic in the Groipers.
The Groiper curse.
Yeah, the curse of the Groiper. The other funny thing about this story is that this Jack Brewer guy went out on Twitter and he said, "In some of our intern pictures, I emulated the OK sign the president sometimes makes. That was foolish. I should have listened more closely to the commander-in-chief and given the thumbs up. I'm proud of my Jewish heritage and strongly reject the hateful views associated with white power organizations. I would never make common cause with them." So instead of doubling down and just saying, you know, fuck you, media, I did the OK sign, you know, leave me alone, it's a non-story, he cowers and says, "Oh, I promise, I'm you know, don't attack me." You know, total weak guy, total loser.
Yeah.
Jack Bauer, total cuck.
Jack Bauer, like from 24?
Jack Brewer, sorry. Jack Brewer is the guy's name.
I was going to say, but yeah, well, yeah, I just
Total
am
cuck.
so sick and tired of that reaction. You would think that a year after, or like 2 years after Donald Trump came out swinging at everybody, we would have all learned the lesson. But do these people think that like it'll get any better if that's the approach? You know, I'm just very sick of the apology. That makes it so much worse. It's bad enough, it's cringe enough that he was doing it. It's retarded that he got caught. But the worst part of the story is that he apologized for making the OK hand gesture. I mean, could you imagine? Like, imagine if you're like drinking milk and they're like, "You're a white supremacist," and you're like, "I'm sorry, I hate white supremacy. I was just drinking milk. I didn't mean anything." Like, that's not how you win the culture war, fellas. And, you know, it's fitting that the heritage is what it is, right?
Yeah. Speaking of the culture war and losing the culture war, turns out everybody hates Star Wars. Turns out we were not alone on this island when we were out there saying that the new Star Wars movie was absolutely garbage. You look at the reviews on this movie, and it's getting like 52% on the review sites. Like, people do not like this film. We dug into why this was so bad in previous episodes. And I think we did a pretty thorough synopsis of just how dumb this film was. The one thing I didn't notice that I found out about later was the purple hair feminist winning the battle by slamming the ship into the big cruiser called Supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Symbolism there. Yeah.
I didn't know it was called that.
Yeah, it wasn't referred to that way in the movie, but like in canon, like that's what it's called. It's the Supremacy. Yeah, Supremacy BTFO. So our over at VDare, Paul Kersey writes this article. He says, "Are whites getting the message that Disney doesn't want them yet?" And he writes, "The left dominates the culture, but it does not yet completely control it. Hence, for example, the war on Christmas resistance, Gamergate, and of course the election of Donald J. Trump. Now, Star Wars Episode 8, released in mid-December to resounding applause from mainstream media reviewers, is tanking, well behind the 2015 Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens. It may not be a border wall, but it's something. According to RottenTomatoes.com, 92% of critics, we know who these critics are, loved The Last Jedi, compared to an audience score of only 52%. The lowest audience score of any Star Wars film. Wow. And I'm not surprised. I mean, dude, I thought Force Awakens was bad, but this one was something else. Like within the first 5 minutes, I was ready to walk out, and I had to fight that urge the whole time in the theater watching this thing. The MSM is blaming the alt-right, although this debacle is far beyond the power of a still nascent movement. Toy sales, which brought Lucas a surprising amount of money for the first Star Wars films, are also tanking. The simple truth, the primarily white fanboys, whose repeat viewings of prior entries in the series drove box office records, simply don't like the new movie. And I think that's the reception we've seen from pretty much, I mean, you look on Twitter at the responses to this movie, and you're getting a lot of positive reviews from like leftist women and leftist like people of color and other film reviewers and people in the media sphere, but like the regular like working Joe fan was not too thrilled with this film. Like I was not seeing like any regular people who I knew be like, oh, this was great.
Yeah, well,
none of my friends liked it.
That's kind of symptomatic of everything that's going on in the country. I mean, Star Wars, it's kind of an apt analogy for the Republican Party in the sense that Republican Party, Star Wars, I mean, even like everything in the country, to make money, to get votes, to get mileage out of things, you're going to need the white people. The white people are still the majority. The white people are the doers. The white people, they're the ones that are going to go and buy the dumb shit. They're the ones that are going to go out and vote. And we're being neglected. We're being neglected by the politicians. We're being neglected by the media, by the culture, Hollywood. Just about everywhere you look, white people are the hated class. There's always the hated class, or at least that's the leftist narrative. And in the 21st century, it's the white male in particular. And the curious thing about that is that, and what's interesting about it is, no matter how much money they lose, no matter how many votes they lose, no matter how much people will lose going after the white male, they'll keep doing it because it's about ideology. And that I think that tells you a lot about what's going on. People will tell you, no, that's just what's in vogue. It's politically correct. That's just what brings in the money. That's just what people want these days. That's why I hear a lot to excuse it. But there's an agenda here. There's an agenda because they pursue it in spite of the fact that they're getting killed, in every sector like this going after the white male. But they'll do it anyway because it's ideological. There's an agenda there. They don't care. But what? No,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Like it's clear that if they were making rational economic decisions, they wouldn't be making these decisions, because we can see that these decisions are killing them financially, which should matter if you're the company, right? If you're Disney Corp, and I don't know if they're privately held or publicly held, but either way, they're supposed to look after the interest of the people who own equity in their company. Clearly, they're not doing that. This is back to Paul Kersey's article. He says, not surprising, an astonishing New York Times article makes clear the anti-white direction the Star Wars franchise is headed after Disney took over originator Lucasfilm in 2012. This is from the New York Times. Women spoke 6.3% of dialogue in A New Hope, the 1977 film that kicked off the franchise. In contrast, women accounted for 27.8% of all dialogue in The Force Awakens in 2015. Even more promising, in Rogue One, non-white characters accounted for 44.7% of all dialogue, a marked increase from 0 in the 1977 original. kind of happening in parallel with our country's demographics, where whitey's being pushed out of everything that used to be created and created by white people, and now it's being replaced by non-white characters, as they say, who are now 50% of all dialogue. And I would be willing to bet that number is probably closer to about, I don't know, what's the ethnicity of that Penn guy in what's his name? Is Penn? Is that his name?
Who? Poe?
Poe, yeah. Is he white? I think he's white.
He's Portuguese, so.
Oh, okay. We don't want to open that can of worms. Jeez. He looks. I mean, he's white passing for sure.
Right.
But depending on how you calculate, you could probably come up with a minority of dialogue in the new film being from white characters.
Oh yeah.
Only prominent white characters were like,
the villains.
Certainly a plurality was spoken by non-white male characters in this new film. Because the main characters were who? Ray. Luke was the only white male main character. Luke and Penn, I guess.
And the villains, of course.
And the bad guys.
The bad guys. You noticed about the First Order. It's white guys. The whole thing is white guys. Well,
and that's one thing I didn't get is like they sneak this Chinese chick onto the ship and put her in a First Order uniform. It's like, okay, and she's out there walking without a helmet. It's like, okay, are they not going to notice that like you're the only like non-white person on this ship?
Yeah.
Aren't they going to be a little bit suspicious about that? If this is supposed to be like the white supremacy, like, aren't they going to pick up on that?
Yeah.
Narrative flaw, narrative hole. Because they did have women. They had the girl who plays Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones be the female, baton twirling stormtrooper chick, who gets burned alive in the film. So they did have women, but they didn't have any like I don't remember any First Order characters that were not white, except like Kylo Ren is like. Is he white? Or is he?
Yeah, he's white.
I don't know.
He's not Jewish. I know that.
Oh, he's not.
Somebody
okay.
told me that.
Interesting, but yeah, it's their narrative doesn't even make sense anymore, dude. Like the narrative for these films, and they're ruining themselves trying to hamstring a narrative in there. Like the '77 movie, A New Hope, was the second best of the franchise. The best, of course, being 6, right? Return of the Jedi was the best one, and. They those were great movies, and actually, I would probably say that number 3 was probably in my top 3. I would probably put that ahead of Empire.
Really, you'd put Revenge of the Sith ahead of Empire?
If I watched them again, I wouldn't. If I went back and watched them all, I'd put Empire ahead of Revenge of the Sith. But like thinking retroactively, like in terms of the whole story and importance to the story. I think I'm kind of like retconning more importance and a better film onto 3. If I haven't watched 3 in like 5 years, so if I were to watch 3 again, it's probably like the acting and the writing would probably, I'd probably see that again and downgrade it. But the importance of the story, it was an important film to the narrative, right, to the story.
Oh yeah, dude. Of course, it was the transition.
It's the turning point
from 2 to 4. Yeah, no, I really like 3. This sequel just goes to show how good the prequels were. I'm a fan of the prequels, and this sequel trilogy goes to show how much worse it could have been. I think just compared with the original, the standards might have been too high. But and tell me what you thought of the first joke. Do you remember the first joke in the movie? When Poe pulls up and he does a phone call. Was that not the
Your
most
mom.
cringe?
Your mom. Dude, I audibly was like, Jesus fucking Christ, as I was sitting there in the movie theater, and like some old boomer like sitting a few seats over like looked over at me, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be a rough time, my guy. Like you're not gonna enjoy my commentary. And then when social justice, Admiral Social Justice, like became the leader, I was like audibly disgusted with that movie.
That's fucking hilarious, dude. Yeah, because I saw that, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? That I was like embarrassed to be there. I was looking around like, does anybody else think this is retarded? And what a disappointment. That's just, they ruin all the good things. It's such a letdown. And that's, the worst things in life are not bad things. It's when you have an expectation of a good thing and then it's fucking terrible, because it's like the magnitude is greater. A negative, if it's like -10, it's -10. But if your expectation is a 10 and then it's a -10, the disappointment is 20. If we're to calculate it, so.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is like, getting Hillary Clinton as president, you're going to get bad stuff.
Right.
But this would be like getting Donald Trump as president, and he immediately on day one like declares an all tranny military and open borders for life. Like that would be so much worse. You feel that betrayal. And the thing is too, to be fair, like I don't think the failure of Star Wars is solely, and the failure of this trilogy is solely based on their dedication to, getting more women and fewer white people. Like it's just a bad story. Like the story is fundamentally flawed. The narrative in these new films is fundamentally flawed and doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Like they're trying to fight the same enemy from A New Hope, right? It's a total 7 was a total rehashing of A New Hope, like almost verbatim. And this movie was like apparently it's a ripoff of like a Star Trek plotline where the ship is running out of film. Didn't progress the story. The ship is running out of fuel. Didn't progress the story at all, right? Mm-hmm. In a normal Star Wars movie, this ship running out of fuel gambit would be like a subplot, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
This would be like a subplot to like a major actual struggle. Dude, even in Phantom Menace, like there was actual major story going on. The discovery of this Jedi Padawan and fighting this initial I think the first action of the Separatists was the attack on Naboo, right? Like that was all a major that was a bigger plot. Like in this one it's like, their ship ran out of gas and they landed on some desert planet and miraculously like were able to defend themselves. Wow. You can only suspend your disbelief for so much, by the way. Also, the thing that pissed me off the most was when Leia like goes out into space.
Oh yeah.
Remember this part?
Me a fucking break, right?
Dude, she would be like instantly frozen, okay? And the force of like a ship like blasting into the cockpit. Okay, first of all, would have crushed her, right? She would not be propelled the opposite direction. Even if she was moving out that other direction, there's no gravity, right? So she would be moving probably much faster than she was in the film, and she'd be like all the lungs would be sucked out, all the oxygen would be sucked out of her lungs. If you don't, right? Because she was knocked unconscious, right, in the blast. If you don't open your mouth when you're out in space, your lungs will blow up because of the pressure. Okay, so unless she was out in space with zero gravity, had her mouth open, which she didn't, you could look at the film. Her mouth is closed. Her lungs would be exploded. Doesn't make and she'd be frozen. Okay, and then like I thought she was dead at that point. I thought she was dead, and then of course, she comes back to life and uses the Force to bring herself back to the ship. It's like, oh my god, there was so much in this movie that was simply unbelievable that it ruined it. It ruined it. Yeah. They broke the laws of the universe. How does a bomber? This is the other thing. How does a bomber, the rebel bombers they had at the start, or the resistance bombers they had at the start, how are they using gravity-driven bombs, right? How are they dropping bombs on the ship? In every other Star Wars film, the bombs have been proton torpedoes, or they've been propelled laser projectiles, right? Mm-hmm. Because you need to propel them because there's zero fucking gravity in space. How are they suddenly like dropping projectiles using gravity onto the ship? And how does one load of bombs, by the way, blow up the whole Star Destroyer? They hadn't disabled the shields. Everybody knows to destroy the Star Destroyer, you have to disable the shields first.
It's true.
I hated this movie. I hated it, and I hate that I have to talk about it again because I hate it so much.
Yeah. No, it was as bad as everybody said. Maybe worse than everybody said. Terrible.
No, to fully grasp how bad this is, you need to watch this movie. Yeah. And I hate it because now people are going to say, "Oh, you're telling people to go spend money on Zog Film Inc." It's like, no. Find some way to watch it that soothes your moral compunctions about it. But watch this film. This will make you angry. This will make you angrier than like 100 stories about migrant crime.
It's true. No, it's true. It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing that we could have expected from this. There's not one redeeming thing about it. There's not a single redeeming thing about this.
No, there really wasn't. I mean, the special effects were cool, I guess, is like all you can really say about it. There were cool explosions. Also, Luke Skywalker getting shelled by like the entire Empire arsenal and like a proton cannon, like it's like, really, he's gonna live through that, really? Yeah, I don't think so. We were seeing Jedi get killed with like blaster rifles.
Yeah.
In Episode 3 with Order 66. right? They were getting gunned down by like stormtrooper blasters. You know, that's like the least powerful weapon in the galaxy. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to believe that Luke Skywalker can live through like, oh my God, dude, I hated that movie.
What a dumb. It's infuriating. Like just, and like they could have just. Here's an easy way to redeem it, like we talked about on the show last week. Make cool shit. It's Star Wars. Make a cool new world. Make a cool new ship. A new army. A new character. None of it. Not one interesting character. Not one like cool planet, cool battle. There wasn't even a single good lightsaber battle. They battled the guards for a minute. We're 2 episodes in and not a single like redeeming good feel-good lightsaber battle. Do you remember Star Wars 1, the Duel of the Fates? Holy shit. Do you remember Attack of the Clones? You had the arena battle. You had Count Dooku and they're fighting him, and then it's the Clone Wars and it's on. And then there's other cool stuff where they were on Kamino and Jango Fett and Obi-Wan fought. Star Wars 3, are you kidding me? Like, how many different lightsaber battles there? And this trilogy, it's like you said, it's reheated episode 4, 5, and 6. Not one, like the easiest thing you could have done was add a cool character. And they're all fucking dumb. And all the stuff is not.
Yeah. And in 3, I mean, people bag on the prequels, but like in 3, the Order 66 scene was fantastically directed.
Yeah.
That whole like 10-minute scene in the film was so good. The score was perfect. You know, you'll always remember like that it's orchestral and there's a chorus, and you'll always remember that part of the movie. And it was great. But there have been no like memorable moments from either of these 2 films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's just rehashing the action, I guess, in a very limited sense. You know, the Millennium Falcon flies down and saves everybody. Oh, bravo! Haven't seen that happen in every film before. You know, and there's nothing. I feel no connection to any of the characters. I like almost want to see the only connection or like moment I felt in sync with one of the characters was when Poe told the feminist chick to like get lost.
Yeah, and
was like get lost, you dumb woman. Like I know what I'm doing here. Like I was like hell yeah. Like I like that. I like that part of the movie. But like there was nothing else, and that's not even just us being like having our sense of morality about gender roles or whatever. That's like the only. It's the only human moment of the movie, right? It was the only like actual emotional moment of the movie.
Yeah.
Everything else was stupid. Leia gets blasted out into space, and the spaceship flies directly at her, and she's up and walking like 10 minutes later. Okay.
Well,
you know what they could have done? You know what they could have done? They could have done this whole story with the Yuuzhan Vong. Have you heard about this?
Yeah. I remember that. That's
right.
From canon.
Yeah, from the books. They were a sentient species that nearly destroyed the New Republic. This is from StarWarsWiki.com. The Yuuzhan Vong and their Chazrak slaves were among the few alien species known to originate outside the galaxy. The only others known being the Silentium and the Abominor, Abominor. A typical Yuuzhan Vong resembled a human in form, though they were taller and heavier than the average human and had less hair on their heads. The Yuuzhan Vong were religious zealots who viewed mechanical technology as blasphemy. Their technological innovations were genetically engineered and purely organic. This would have been like, so in canon, they invade after the rebellion wins. They have the New Republic. Then the Yuuzhan Vong invade and they start and it's a new civil war. Mm-hmm. This would have been a natural progression, by the way, for the story, because you think about the prequels, right? And the struggle in the prequels is between the separatists and the Republic. Okay, and you're fighting for the identity of the Republic, and the Republic wins, and then the Republic transforms, and then you're having the people, the rebellion, who are fighting to restore the Republic to what it was against the new supposedly evil empire, and they win, and so you've achieved this kind of harmony in the galaxy. What would be better than for them to face an existential threat from outside the galaxy that now the entire New Republic has to rally around and fight against, right? And to fight for the very existence of their galaxy. Would have been a great story.
That would have been ideal, but they wanted to make it about, I don't even know, like why
Globo homo diversity.
How did they sit down? Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I think that's what it was about. I think that was the mission here, was not to make a sequel, but to like rewrite the history. This was like Joseph Stalin tier, where they said, no, we're not going to make the new Star Wars. We're going to make the old Star Wars fit with the new standards and everything. We're not going to make a new story with a new narrative, we're going to exhume the corpse of the old Star Wars and rape it. It's like Disney exhumed the coffin of Star Wars, took out the bodies and said, hey kid, watch this. And then they raped it. And then they just fucking raped it. And
Serbian film for the Star Wars legacy. Yeah, no, this I'm reading this Yuzan Vong. This would have been cool, dude, because their ships are like all organic. They're like living things. They're kind of like Zerg from StarCraft.
Yeah.
And the creatures, they look like you know what they look like? They look like the Reapers from Firefly. Have you seen Firefly?
No.
Oh, geez, you need to.
Yeah.
Firefly's a great series. Honestly, you would love it. It only went for like 12 episodes, one season before Fox canceled it. That's going to be the project. I'm going to make you watch Firefly. It's on Netflix. It's kind of like this world, this futuristic world where it's like a space western kind of, because we've gotten into space, and the two superpowers were the U.S. and China. So everyone in this new space world is either American or Chinese essentially, and the cultures are like clashing, right? And they've kind of melded in space. Very interesting premise, very interesting kind of like backstory and world on it. And it's a non-paused story. Although I guess you could say that the whole Malcolm, for the Firefly fans out there, you can say the whole like Malcolm Inara or Captain Reynolds Inara storyline is paused because of her profession. I'm not going to give too much away if you haven't seen Firefly, but definitely watch it. I need to rewatch that series. Good series. Anyways, yeah, another thing that is infinitely better than the new Star Wars. The prequels are also infinitely better. I'm gonna rewatch the new prequels here this week or at some point.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch all the old Star Wars. I forgot how cool they were. Like Phantom Menace, it gets a lot of shit, but I liked it, dude. I liked the pod racing. Okay, I liked I think everyone liked Duel of the Fates. The first scene, I mean, the kitschy, the funny moments, it's nostalgia for us. It's not so serious. And compared to this, it's such a breath of fresh air. So I'm with you.
Yeah. I think we'll run the Order 66 music as the outro today, or maybe for the bumper. I don't know. But it's so good. Like you always remember this track. The beautiful orchestral I'm listening to it now. Orchestral in the background, the chorus. It's powerful.
I remember. Yeah, right. You think
iconic.
About it. You think of the music. I can't remember the music from the sequel. Yeah, there was really good music in the prequel. I forgot about that.
Well, you know what happened? John Williams didn't do the sequels.
Yeah, you're right.
He's not doing the new series.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it sucks ass.
It's probably let's see who the director is. Music.
I think Hans Zimmer did the episode 7, if I recall correctly.
Oh, did he?
I like Hans Zimmer a lot, but he's no John.
He's usually good. Oh, never mind. I was wrong. Williams did do the Last Jedi.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know
that. Well, he did a bad job. Although, then again, like there's really nothing emotional for him to compose.
Yeah.
Like
true.
to compose something powerful and emotional, you need a good backdrop for it, and there just wasn't anything there for him to compose against.
Well, he did a bad job. It's funny because it's true though. Well, yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. For the quality of the movie, I guess he was right in line with the quality of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, right.
Because there was just nothing good there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Well, all right. Should we could talk about this story from Florida? Yeah. I'll post that on Gab. Yeah. Follow me on Gab for the extra content we don't get to on the broadcast. Let's go to the mailbag now. The virtual mailbag, not the physical mailbag. Again, the virtual mailbag is available to people who are $7 or more patrons on patreon.com/America First Media. I think, or are we a /Nationalist Review? I haven't done the show. Yeah, /America First Media gets you access to the mailbag, $7 a month. Great perk. You also get to participate in all other kinds of fun stuff there. We have the live shows. We have what else do you get for $7? You get Discord role. You get a special Discord role, which is always coveted, and we do special hangouts on there. So definitely check that out. It helps us be able to do what we do. So let's go to the questions now. Buddy says, Jared Taylor talked about how great Identity Europa was doing on his last Amaran podcast. I would like to know if Nick is encouraged by IE's good optics and just general discussion on IE would be nice.
Yeah, no,
Opening a can of worms here.
Identity Europa. I'm so glad they decided to take my advice. I'm so glad that
oh boy.
I'm so glad that the little guy who runs it, he took my advice. He finally saw it. Well, I mean, and look at the banners. Look at the banners that they've been doing. I mean, this is exactly
They're good.
This is exactly what me and you were saying throughout the optics war, which was do it like Generation Identity. And they did. They've been doing like carbon copy, and not only like the banners they've been dropping, but also the type of operation, which is small, controlled, people who know what they're going there to do. The optics are good. And, you know, the messaging on the banner, what was it? It was America first, end immigration. Gee, good idea. Where'd you get that idea from, huh? Right? So, no, I think, you know, for all of my personal feud with Patrick Casey, who runs it, and then, you know, that was a retarded controversy, but one that he did cause. I think they have been doing a very good job, and you got to give the devil their due. I think the Europa focus is misguided. You know, I think it should be, the colors should be, you know, red, white, and blue, or red, silver, and blue, or something more American, but that's my only quibble. Everything else has been pretty solid. So don't like the guy. Well, I take that back. I like the guy. He started shit with me, but they've been doing very well. So got to give him credit.
Sure. Yeah, and that's I think a good stance to take. I mean, there are always going to be people who you personally dislike or personally disagree with. And I'm not just talking to you, Nick. I mean, like, for people out there, like, there will always be something about someone that you don't like, some characteristic or trait or thing they've done in the past that you don't like about them, but you have to look at what they're doing and their net impact. And if it is good, and if they are doing things that are positive and are fighting for the right objective, then certainly give them credit for that. Yeah, no, I like their banner drops. I think that the color and the aesthetics, I mean, that's still like you'd rather be debating aesthetics than optics, I guess. You know, you'd rather be debating, you know, what color should our banner be than should we or should we not wear stall helms. You know, like, if you're having this conversation, you know you're in a good place. So, yeah, no, I give them credit. I like what they're doing. I think the Europa thing is it certainly appeals to a certain demographic, right? It's going to appeal to people who I think are like me, you know, who are millennial or Gen Z, who are, you know, growing up on vaporwave and you know, typing their tweets in all lowercase with two spaces between, you know, the words, and like that kind of aesthetic. Like, that's fine, you know, that's fine. It's certainly a upper middle class type of demographic that will resonate the most with the Identity Europa aesthetic. But, you know, those are people that are absolutely important to get and important to win over. So, no, I like what they're doing. And Patrick's a good guy. Patrick is doing good work. I like the focus, the pivot to more of what Generation Identity is doing. You know, I obviously, I posted this on Instagram yesterday. I met with Martin Sellner yesterday. We have some things that we're you know, talking about, working on, me and Brittany and them. So it's off to a good start, I think. And it's good to have IE doing what they're doing now. This is not to you know, speak negatively of Eli, of course, at all. I think, you know, Eli is good at what he does. He's good at the security operations, and that's definitely an important thing to be doing. But you know, and I wish Operation Homeland the best as well, of course. It's good that we have so many people out there who are doing these things, right? It's better to have an abundance of activists that are all trying to have the right aesthetic and trying to do the right thing than no activists, or than an abundance of activists who are like just going out and looking like retards.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a pretty good place as far as activism goes. And I would like to see that increase more for 2018. And I think we here at America First can probably do more to support and endorse and to push some of that activism ourselves. So yeah, definitely good stuff from IE. And good to hear you being very congenial, Nick, and and being a team player.
It's unlike me. It's not my usual combative self. I don't know. Maybe it's because I got a sub upstairs waiting for me. I don't know, but well, look, I like Patrick.
Oh, the food.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what you meant by sub.
Oh, Jeff, no, get your mind out of the gutter.
Christmas coming late, I guess.
Jeez, yeah. No, I liked Patrick when I met him, but there was a very dumb controversy, and then he wanted to shill. I see him on poll all the time talking shit about me, and that's
you don't know if that's him.
I know it, but but I still think he's doing good work. So before I can
we'll leave it at that. We'll leave. Yeah, that's a good place to end.
Yeah, right.
That's yeah. Yeah. The train's almost to the station. Don't derail it now. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Jay says, do you guys still think Paul Nealon has a chance to win next year, given the fact he's gone full on America first, in quotes, and is dispensing red pills like never before? Nick, what do you think? We talked about this before the show. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, if Ryan doesn't run again, he'll have a much better shot, obviously. And I think he would even have a shot at winning, depending on what would happen. Certainly be unpredictable. But I think what he's going for is not so much. Like, you got to look at the bigger picture, which is to say that he is giving us the prototype for what this could look like. He is a frontiersman. He is out there testing the water. He is testing the limits of how far we can take this. And what I really like about it is that he's basically doing what the alt-right and what Poll has been doing, what I think is like optimal, what is maximizing our potential, which is online supreme shit poster, brilliant, edgy, smart, funny, and then when you see him on video and when you see him do his town hall, he's throwing the Bible up, American flags everywhere, loves America, hates the TPP, he's blue collar. So I fucking love it, okay? I love what he's doing. I think it's brilliant. And, anybody who's saying, oh, he's wasting an opportunity, whatever, he's throwing it away, you got to look at the bigger picture. What he's doing is so much more important. This is truly metapolitical. That gets thrown around a lot, but it's true. This has never been experimented with before, and I wish him the best. God bless him. I'll be up there campaigning for him again, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's too early. I mean, the election isn't for like almost another year. So, or no, it is. It's in like 6 months, I think. So it is too early to tell, and I haven't seen any polling in the district to really indicate like which way things are going. Obviously, people are not happy with Paul Ryan, so there's always a chance for Ryan to be defeated. But I don't think that Paul Nealon is running a campaign. He's not running a conventional campaign. Absolutely, he's not running a conventional campaign. I think what Paul Nealon is trying to do, and we'll actually be having him on here in the next couple of weeks, we could talk about this. I think what he's trying to accomplish here is to win, right? He would like to win. But even if he doesn't win the election, he still wins because it's an educational campaign. This is kind of what Ron Paul did in 2008 and 2012, where Ron Paul didn't think he had a chance to win. He did in 2012, but in 2008, he knew he didn't have a chance to win. But he was trying to introduce something new to politics, trying to introduce a new strain of right wing into politics. And that was, of course, the libertarian side of politics. And through Ron Paul, many people heard about libertarianism for the first time, and they got involved with libertarian projects, they got involved with libertarian activism, they got involved with libertarian thinking, and then a lot of those people have now progressed over to nationalism and identitarianism. In fact, most of the quality people from the libertarian side have progressed beyond it. This is something I talked about with Millennial Woes on Millennial a few days ago. And so I think that even if Nealon doesn't win the election, he's still moving the frame, right? And so now the frame has been moved. The frame for what a radical candidate has been moved so far that someone can come in. I mean, he's spending more time focusing on like Judaism and things like that than I think. If I were to be running a campaign, I wouldn't be talking about that stuff at all, probably. Right, because I mean, it's simply too esoteric for most voters to really grasp, and it doesn't affect them in their day-to-day lives, and so or they don't perceive things like that as affecting them. So it's not you're not using the most pressing issues to relate to people. You know what I mean? Does that makes sense? Okay, so if I were campaigning, I would be focusing on jobs, on immigration, on demographics. I'd certainly be focusing on demographics and our identity as Americans. But what Neil is doing is he's shifting the window so far that now candidates can come forward and talk about those things, and it will be more normalized. So even if Nealon doesn't win his race, he's still scoring a massive win for the American right and the nationalist right, identitarian right. And he is totally, he has balls of steel. You know, I gives that guy so much credit for saying what he's saying and taking on the people he's taking on and taking on the groups he's taking on, because most people would cower and cuck in fear from the mean tweets he's receiving from, you know, Max Boot or John Podhoretz, but he is standing bulletproof in their face, and it's a great thing to watch.
Agreed.
Cool. Well, I think that just about does it. I'm gonna be mad about Star Wars for a while now. The days after I saw the film, I was kind of, you know, cooled off on it, but man, you know, thinking about it again, it's gonna heat me up all again. So gonna be a little bit irritating, but we'll manage. We will manage. So I think that just about does it for the show today. Thanks everybody for listening. Again, if you have not ordered the America First mug yet, the iconic America First mug, let me check our stock on that real quick, because I know we're selling hot on those, and we should be getting those in. Let me check. I'll give a live update on when we're going to be getting those in. Because I know people are eagerly waiting for them. We've received many an email saying that people want their mugs. Let's see, I'm not seeing it here. Anyway, I'll post it on Gap. I'll post a new merch update on Gap when I find it. But yeah, we're selling them quick, so get yours. AmFirstMedia.com/shop to pick it up. We'll be doing T-shirts here very soon. We'll be making our order from the T-shirt supplier and getting those on the way ASAP. And so keep updated there for that. We'll keep you updated on those. And that about does it. Nick, you got anything else?
No, I think that's everything. We're back. We are back from Christmas, and First Media back for a solid 2018, starting in a couple of days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not this coming week, because I need to do some prep. I need to get everything ready, but I think we're ready to make the announcement that I will be moving the America First Overdrive. I'll be moving that to a audio show, to a podcast that I'll be doing probably 4 days a week. Tentatively planned on 4 days a week, possibly more. We're doing that 4 days a week. It'll be a morning show though, so I'll be getting up at the crack of dawn here. Probably recording at around 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, recording that and getting that out and having a daily podcast. So for those of you who don't have time for the video, I know that a lot of people say, 3 hours of video every day, it's too much to watch. And I certainly sympathize with that. As someone who consumes more of podcasts myself, I definitely do sympathize with that. So I'll be planning on launching that coming up here, probably not this week, but probably the next week. So we'll be doing the 4 day a week show. Nationalist Review twice a week, and then America First 5 days a week. So we'll have, what is that? 11 different pieces of content for you at a minimum every week, and then not to mention more shows that we'll be adding here as the year starts to heat up. So a lot of new content coming your way, a lot of different content, but new and in my opinion improved content coming your way this upcoming year. So 2018 is the year that we blow up. Watch out, CRTV. I know CRTV got roaming millennial. How will we ever compete? And Rebel has, I don't know who Rebel has anymore. Tommy Robinson, but watch out, Rebel. We're coming for you. So that's the plan anyways. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We do appreciate it. Nick, what's you got to have something planned for America First. I know I do this every Saturday, and it's always kind of a misfire, but what do you have planned this week for America First?
Well, we got a big show this week. The infamous
Monday.
Laura Loomer coming on the show
God.
on Thursday to talk about who controls the banks and the media. The answer might surprise you.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's gonna be
fun.
Fun.
Well, make sure she gets there safely. Make sure she has her tires all filled up before she tries to drive in and drives to wherever she's doing the show from. What is her take on who controls the media and the banks?
Oh well, I think she has suggested that a certain desert tribe might have some undue influence. A certain desert cult tribe maybe a part.
Well, I
of
mean,
that.
we would never suggest
No.
this, right? I mean,
No, this is Laura.
we would never point out, demographics and how, small sects of the population, by their own admission, make up a large majority of the media. We would never say that. But Loomer, who herself is I believe Loomer is Jewish, she put out a very interesting tweet to Tariq Nasheed where she seemed to suggest that, didn't she?
She did, and very vile white supremacy. So, but we'll see what she's got. We'll see what she meant by that. What did she mean by that? What's her end game? We'll figure it out on Thursday. The Ashkenazi IQ versus the Italian, the Roman med IQ.
We need to really hold her accountable for these horrific remarks.
Indeed. She's got to cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
That's right. All right. Well, all that to look forward to and more this week in America First. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you all this week. See you later.